Okay, methinks I am live. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Paula. Okay, I was fiddle farting around here as usual. Okay, let's see here. All right. Good afternoon to everyone who's here. Let's see if Facebook will pull in a few more people, hopefully. Okay. Hello, Linda. Happy birthday. Have a margarita for me, honey. Hi, Shelby. Okay. Well, I finally got myself to the hairdressers the other day, and I got a couple inches chopped off, and it felt good to be able to go there. And I also got a pedicure, which I hadn't, sadly to say, gotten in about a year. So, I mean, I was cutting my own toenails, but it still wasn't very pretty. So, anyway, I was glad that I got that done. Hello to Mary and Karen and Deb and Dawn. Glad you guys could join me today. I wasn't sure if this would be a project that everybody would like to see or not. I know that there was some interest, so I thought I would kind of share that with you. This is kind of an involved project. It's not difficult, but there's different stages to it. It's not anything I can start to finish in our period of time. But this is kind of a neat thing that I like to do, like in the evenings when, I want to relax and I can put everything on a tray on my lap, and my husband can watch TV and he's happy that I'm there, even if I'm not, paying attention too much of what's going on, but I'm there. And I can kind of multitask a little bit. So hello, Monica. Hi, Ken. Glad you guys could join in today. I hope that you can glean a little bit of something out of what I'm showing today. And there's lots of variety in these kinds of projects. They don't have to be exactly how I'm going to demo it, but you have a lot of possibilities with this technique. Hello, Ruth Ann. What are we making? I'm going to lower the camera, and I'm going to seed bead around a cabochon, a seed bead bezel, rather than like a silver or metal bezel. This is a little bit different. I want to see if you can see these well enough. Sometimes when I bring it too close to the camera, then it gets fuzzy, but I want you to be able to see because I don't have a close-up. I'm just working off of my phone, so it's not like I have a nice camera that can actually zoom in on a picture, but you can get the idea. These are all glass cabochons that I've made, and what I'm going to be doing is a 20 millimeter, which is about this size right here, 20 millimeter cab, and you can embellish it and make it, pretty big if you want, or you can keep it small and petite. It just depends on what you want to do. But you can embellish, I've put Swarovski crystals around the edges of here, but you could put other kinds of beads, check beads or different shapes. You can do like little fringes around here. So there's, lots of different possibilities. But this is just a very basic run through of what you can do with a cabochon. So let's see here. For this project, I am using, like I said, a 12 millimeter 20 millimeter cabochon, but that doesn't really matter. I am going to, like, you can see the difference here. This is 20 millimeters. This is probably a 22 millimeter cabochon by itself without the border around it. That doesn't really matter. You can do really large ones too. I mean, this one is significantly bigger, but you know, it's a good size piece for a good size person like myself. So I just figure, you know, if you've got a lot of real estate here, you want to cover some up a little bit. So, or you could show it off, maybe a little bit nicer way to say that. So, hi Diane. Okay, so this is basically what we're going to do. And what I did was I did a few cabochons. I bezeled a few in stages, so that way you can see. It would be too long to sit there and watch me put each bead in, you know, to do 3 rows. So, you know, I'm going to do it in steps, so that way you can kind of get the gist of it. And you can always play this back if you decide you want to try it, and, you know, I can work with you. And I'm also going to give you a YouTube link of a really good seed beading person who does a lot of this sort of thing. And I've watched several of her videos. I really like them a lot. She's very thorough. She has a very calm, pleasant voice, and she takes breaks. You know, the fact that she's recording this, you know, she will do, like, she'll get you started on a row, and then she'll say, you know, you finish it up and I'll see you back, you know, and then you just play it. You just add, continue the video, and you can see all the steps. If I did this, we'd probably be here till, I don't know, 6 o'clock, maybe later. So it's better, you know, that you can kind of do the same thing, you know, watch, get the idea of it, then work on your own, and then you can pick it back up. So, you know, it's just a little bit different. When you do a class, you have a lot more time allowed. So, you know, we'll work on it this way. Let's see. All right. Hi, Trace. Hi, Suzanne. All right. So what you need when you're doing, when you're bezeling around a cabochon with seed beads is you need a few products, and you can use, you need a foundation to build your piece on. So this is a piece of beading foundation, comes in a little envelope like this. You can get white or black. I choose to use the white because it's easier to see my thread. I'm using dark thread. If you're using white thread, maybe that would be okay to use the black background, but I prefer to use the white. So there's a, this is the name. This is put out by the Beadsmith. It's just called Beading Foundation. And then there's Lacey's Stiff Stuff. This has been around for a really long time. It's basically the same thing. I think this beading foundation is kind of a spin-off on the Lacey's. I think people have been using this for years. So it's basically the same thing. It's just a stiff, kind of a stiff material that holds your bezel in place really nicely. It's not floppy. So I've already started the beading foundation piece, so I'm just going to cut off a little square from that, and I'll show you the beginning steps. All right, so I've cut myself a square of the beading foundation. You don't need a lot. I'm going to turn the camera down here, and anytime you have questions or comments, just go ahead and put them down, and I'll take I peek periodically, you know, I do, and I'll try to answer whatever questions you might have. So we need the beading foundation. I use E6000. I know it's backwards, but it's E6000, and I have just like a little piece of a craft stick or toothpick you can use to help spread that, but we need to glue the cabochon to the beading foundation. So I'm going to do that right now. And you don't need a ton, and actually you don't want a ton because I'm just kind of coating the bottom. I'm not really squeezing all that much on there, but I'm coating the bottom of the cab. But you don't want a lot of glue oozing out, because if you do, the glue dries on the foundation, and then it's hard to pass your needle through because you're passing it through that glue. So I'm just gonna get a little smear on there. And of course, my paper towel is out of my reach. Okay, and then I'm just gonna turn that over. And I kind of slid on that a little bit, so I'm gonna pull that glue off. And just press that down and let it sit for about an hour. Okay, so that's your very first step. And then in the meantime, you can pick out whatever colors you want to use. Now I've already done that, but we're going to be using size 11/0 seed beads and size 15/0 seed beads. And I also have different Swarovski crystals that I can pick from in here. Okay, so you want to get 2 different colors of size 11s, because we're going to be doing 2 rows of those, and then 1 color of size 15/0 seed beads. These are the teeny ones. And then you're going to need about 26 crystals. These are 3 millimeters that I'm going to be using today, but you could use 3 or 4. You know, that's not really a huge deal there. So we're going to have those things. I've already picked mine out. Oh, and then we also need a piece of suede, ultra suede. And this is also, I bought this from the beadsmith, and it comes in a square like this. You can make a ton of pieces with a piece this size. I believe it only comes in one size. So I think this is about, oh yeah, it's 8.5 by 8.5 piece. But, you know, I've been working on one of these squares for a long time, and this is what I have left of one square so far. All right, so you need those things. You also need thread. I'm going to use Fireline. Fireline is also, well, it started off as fishing line. It comes in different pounds for the size. I find 6-pound weight is a really good versatile weight for lots of projects. That is kind of an in-between. Beaters usually use between 4 and 8, you know, 4, 6, and 8-pound fishing line, depending on the type of project they're using. Okay, so, or making. Carol, the beading foundation is, what is it? If I was a seamstress, I would probably know. It doesn't really say what it is, but it kind of reminds me of interfacing that people would sew with, but I think it's a little, well, it is a lot stiffer than that, but I'd say it's maybe similar to it. Okay. All right. So you need the Fireline. That's going to be your thread. It comes in several different colors when you buy it. If you know, I prefer to get the smoke color. They have a black, smoke, and crystal. Crystal is the white. But I tend to really like the smoke for just about everything. It's a thread that you don't notice so much. You know, sometimes in beading projects, you notice the thread right away. That just kind of pops out at you. But I find with the smoke, it's much nicer. It will come off on your hands just a little bit if you're working a long time with the thread. But I mean, it's no big deal, but it's just something to note that you will get a little bit of this color on your hand a little bit. Pellon interfacing, it probably is done. You know, like I said, I'm not much of a sewer, so you know, I don't know too much about interfacings, but it could very well be. It seems like it has a very similar feel to it. So we're going to use what I would say a comfortable length of thread, which I generally use a wingspan, what I call a wingspan, and that is holding my arms out, you know, all the way out, and it's probably about a yard. Maybe everybody's wingspan's probably just a little bit different, but I go by that, about a wingspan. And I'm going to cut my thread with good scissors. That's one thing about Fireline. If you don't have super sharp scissors, it just kind of frays, and then it makes it very difficult to thread your needle. You I'll show you some other tips with it, but if it does fray a little bit at the ends, you can actually take like a flat nose or chain nose plier and just kind of smush the end of it a little bit and flatten that thread, and then it makes it go through the eye of the needle a lot easier. So, okay, so that's the thread we're going to use. That's Fireline. We're going to use a number 12 beading needle. This is the needles come in different sizes. This is called an English beading needle, size 12. And this again, I got through the Beadsmith. It's not a Beadsmith product, but when you go into beading stores, they usually have their needles like on a card, and they have different sizes. So for this type of project, a number 12 is a good size for this this project. Okay. Some of the beads, if I wasn't using 15O beads, which are a really small hole, I could get by with a little thicker needle, like a number 10, but I'm passing the thread through those little tiny bead holes a few times, so the number 12 needle will go through there a lot easier. Okay, so we need that, and I think I've covered the materials that we need. Okay, so, and you know, once I've glued this piece on, I just am going to leave it like that. If your thread gets caught on these little corners of the interfacing, you can just round them out a little bit. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to start, I've already glued this one on. I'm going to start with this cabochon, and then we're going to move for the first row, and then we'll move to another cabochon that already has the first row, and I'll start the second row, and then we'll move on to another one that has the first and second rows, and we'll add the third. So if you caught me on all of that, good, because I confuse myself. All right, so I've got my thread measured. I'm going to grab my needle. When I do kits and stuff, I always package the needles in a little piece of felt to keep you from stabbing yourself. And I am going to thread this needle. The eyes are very small on these needles. The most important thing, and that's probably with every project, every beading project or jewelry making project, is that you have good vision and good lighting. Those are very very important things, because you will not be as successful as you want to be if you can't see well, you know, with your eyes, and if you don't have enough light. It is so easy to skip beads because you think you see it, but you're really missing it. So, all right, so I'm working on a bead mat. This is just a, for those who aren't familiar, this is, they sell bead mats like this in the beading sections of stores, but it's like a Velux blanket, like a bed blanket, if you're familiar with those. It's just like a square of that. I prefer to work on a beading surface like this rather than a towel, because towels have a nap in them. You know how they have all those little loops of threads, and your beads can get kind of stuck in there. But if you have nothing else and you don't mind working on a towel, you can do that. So I'm going to pour out a little bit of my 11 O's, and I'm going to start my first row. Hello, Diane. Hello, Janet. All right. So I'm bringing my needle through the back of the interfacing or the bead foundation, and I'm going to pull it all the way through and leave myself just about 3 inches or so of a tail. Okay, so there's a little bit sticking out here, and then the rest is all up here. And what I'm going to do, I'm hoping that you can see me all right, and please let me know if I need to move the camera at all. I'm going to pick up 2 of my seed beads, and where I have my thread coming up, I'm going to drop the first bead. The beads are going to be laying vertically. Okay, I'm using a single thread, Fran. So I'm just kind of holding on to that tail so I don't pull it through. So I'm going to send 2 seed beads down, and they're going to lay vertically in a row all the way around your cabochon. So I nest those 2 together, and I'm going to put my needle down right next to the 2. It's right next to the 2 beads and right on the edge of the cabochon, because I want them nice and close to the cabochon. And then I'll pull my thread through. Okay, so I have 2 beads right now. Now I'm going to go, I've got the thread coming out from the bottom, and I'm going to go back up, and right next to where the first bead is, if they move a little bit, you can pull that tail down and get them nestled back where they need to be. I'm going to put that needle back as close as I can. And this is where it's important that you don't get too much glue, because you have to be forcing that needle through the dried glue. All right, so I'm bringing the needle up through the bead foundation. And now the thread is in back of those 2 beads. So now I want to go through these 2 beads with my needle and pull my thread all the way through. And now I'm going to grab 2 more beads. And you have to kind of allow that or visualize the width of what these 2 beads make, okay? So that's kind of an eyeball thing, and as you work with them, you'll kind of get the hang of where they should go. So I'm going to give it right here and put the needle down. I'm still holding on to my tail back here so I don't pull them out. All right, so now I have 4 beads in a row. Now what happens is you go through, when you're going back through, you want to go through 3 beads. Always go through 3 beads, but in the beginning you have to just go through 2, because that's all you can do. All right, tell me how this is now. So now I'm going between the first and the second bead to bring my needle back up. Okay. Can you guys see this better? Or am I too close now? So I've pulled my thread between the first and the second bead. And now I'm going to put my needle through the last 3 beads that I added. And you make sure that you go through all 3 of them, because if you're not careful, you could go through like the side and miss a bead. So then your row is not going to lay flat. So then you pull onto that. Is this better? Okay. All right. So once you've gone through those 3, then you're going to pick up 2 again and allow for that width of those 2 beads. And bring this through. And sometimes you have to straighten it up. Sometimes the beads and the thread kind of twist a little bit. So you have to keep an eye on your work as you're moving along. All right, so now I'm going to go and put my needle through the last 3 beads that are on this row. Okay. So I'm in between the 3. And now I'm going to grab the last 3, put my needle through those last 3 beads. And this is what you do all the way around. And that's why I did these in stages, because you would get bored out of your mind if you sat here and watched me do this whole thing. Oop, I didn't go through my beads. You've got to make sure that you go through those last 3 beads before you try to add any more on. I can't stress the magnification and the lighting enough. It is just so important. I've taught a lot of classes in different things, and a lot of times the people were having problems. It was mainly because they thought they were seeing okay, but they really weren't. And it's hard to tell somebody, you know, you really need to wear magnifiers, or your magnifiers need to be stronger, because you're not, you can't be seeing this, you know. So that's just really important. So I'm always adding 2, and I'm going back, I'm going back 3. And go through those last 3 again. Actually goes fairly quickly. The size 15s take a while, because they're a little bit tinier, and they're just, you know, there's more of them because they're little. But this is something I really do enjoy doing. But there's, like I said, it's usually an evening project, or something that I can't work with tools and metal and all that other stuff. So there's definitely a place for this. When I was teaching up at Beaded Button in Milwaukee, we have a local friend, and she might even be watching this, I'm not sure, or watch it later. But she was one of the teachers that taught up there every year, that did beading. She taught beading classes, and preparing, there's always a huge amount of work to prepare when you're teaching classes. But when you're teaching metalworking classes and things like that, I would have, and I'm not kidding you, I would have about 10 big plastic, like Rubbermaid tubs full of supplies and tools and different things, because I tried to bring the majority of what people need with me. And and my friend would have this little suitcase, and she had all her stuff in there, all her supplies, all her kits people were buying. It was just like maddening. I mean, it was great for her, but I thought, man alive, when you're traveling, there's a lot involved in stuff. But the beading, it's a lot more portable, easily portable. So that's always kind of stuck in my craw when we were teaching in Vegas, and we'd have to have suitcases for all the stuff, or mail stuff ahead, which can be pretty costly. And a couple of my friends would go with me, and everybody had to have one suitcase designated for just supplies, because there was just a lot to do. So there's a big difference in what you have to bring when you're teaching. All right, so you get the gist of this. I'm adding 2, trying to get about the right distance, the width of 2 beads, and make sure that they're sitting the right way before you progress, or you'll get everything out of alignment. And then you add your 2, and then you go back 3 beads, and try to keep other stuff out of your way that doesn't get the thread caught in it, because it will. If you have pliers laying around or scissors or whatever, they will get stuck. They'll catch the thread. Can you guys see okay? I'm just kind of going ahead and trying to get to the end of the row, and then I will pick it up where you start your second row. I maybe should have picked just a smaller, now see, I almost forgot to go back through my 3. So I think what I'm going to do is make about 10 kits. I probably have enough of everything for at least 10 kits. And I'll offer, if anybody's interested, I'll offer a choice of a couple of different cabochons, and then I'll pick corresponding colors. You can pick the cabochon that you want, and then I will pick the complementing colors if you want, and your kit will have everything that you need in it. So that way you don't have to buy everything under the sun before you decide if you want to pursue it or not. See, it goes by pretty fast. I've got a handout already made, and it takes you through all the steps except for putting on the bail. The bail, you can watch this woman that I was talking about on her YouTube channel, and she will walk you through how to put the bail on. But it was getting kind of out of hand. My handout was getting like there was a lot involved in putting it together, so I just decided I was going to quit at the bail part because that's not really too difficult to do, but it's something that you can certainly pick up watching this person. And still, I guess I don't have my scissors or my pliers far enough away. And another cool thing is how you use these. You could make a pendant for sure, or you could make a bracelet and put it on leather, which I think would be very pretty. Because once this piece is done, I mean, you could choose to have crystals around here or not. Some people are not crystal people, but you could certainly glue this, use that E6000 on a leather bracelet, and that will not, I pretty much can guarantee you that won't come off if you've glued it on properly. And that's a whole nother look. So many people really like leather, and that would be a nice way to do it. So I was waiting. I wanted to have cabochons already made for this, but I was waiting for my new Murini to come in, and they came in this morning. So I'm going to, they're basically Murini that look a lot like this one, but I'm going to see what else I can come up with. But I will put a picture of what I make. I'm hoping to do this on Friday, but I can't guarantee it. But if I don't do it Friday, I will do it sometime over the weekend. And then I'll post a picture, and then you can pick from there. This is just with seed beads, but you can also do these with delica beads and have a little bit of a different look. There's just so many different options. But, I don't know, depending on who's watching, if you've done this kind of work before, or, or obviously it must be at least a little interesting or you wouldn't be watching. But, a lot of people are pretty much die-hard metal smithing people and don't usually stray, but I'm not one of those. I like to get my fingers in all kinds of different things, and I find benefit to that because this is so portable. And if you don't mind working with small things. Okay, getting close. So got to go back through those 3, up and through the 3. Art ADD. You're right, Patty. You know me. You know me. All right. I don't have anything interesting, I don't think, to share with you right now. I'm not sure. But if you have any questions about anything, please go ahead and ask. Even if it's not related to this particular project, I can probably address those. Some of the stuff, and I think I've mentioned it to you before, is readily available in craft stores, and some is not. And when I had my physical store, my brick and mortar store and shop, I should say. I carried a lot of different projects, and I was or products, and I was able to open up accounts with some of these companies that you can't, an individual just can't purchase through without a brick and mortar store. But when I closed my store, I was afraid that I was going to have to give up my privileges. But the fact that I have a bead club also, I was able to provide a lot of different products to the bead club members, so they let me keep my standing, which I was very happy to have. So that's why, like on the magnets that I just offered, you can't find those. Maybe you could in a specific beads shop, or maybe you could find them in an Etsy shop, but other than that, you couldn't buy them from the I shouldn't say manufacturer, but from the retailer. So that's why, I'll offer things like that for sale from time to time, just because I know that you can't get them easily. And the magnetic clasps, I was searching for those on Etsy just to see if you could find them. And what I came across was they wanted $8 a piece for the same magnet clasp that I'm selling for $4. So that's kind of, sometimes that's what you run across. So if I can pass on a decent deal, I will be happy to do that. All right, so I'm coming up to the end. And sometimes when you're ending, there might be only room for one bead rather than two. So, you just kind of have to judge that. I'm going to go ahead and try to put two in, but if it doesn't lay right, I may take one out. Oh, and see what I did? I tried to put them in without going back up through the fabric. So I have to take the needle off, take the two beads off, and rethread my needle. All right. Okay, where's that hole? And another note, these needles, they bend pretty easily. So in the kit, you'll get two of them just because of that. And actually, you can use a curved needle for quite a while. It just might be annoying to hold it, but it works, until they break. I usually use the curved needles. So just a note, it's not that you're doing anything too hard or whatever. It's just that they're thin and they bend very easily. All right, so let's get those last two on. Let's make sure that there's room for two. I'm going to say no. I don't think two is a good for that small area. So I'm going to take this last one off. The second one off, I should say. And the joy of rethreading this needle. And like I said, you can take some flat pliers and smash that end a little bit. That will help you get that thread pass through the eye easier. I need young eyes. Okay. All right, so that went through. All right, so I've got my full circle on here, and now what I'm going to do is reinforce this row by taking my needle, putting it pretty much where I left off, and I'm going to pass the needle through as many as I can grab, but make sure that you're through each one of them. And we're just going to reinforce that ring all the way around. And usually, you know, if you start, once you go around that ring, you should be pretty much right where you started. So where your tail end is sticking out, that's where you're going to go. You want to end up again with the second pass around there. So I'm going to go through all of these at once. That makes it a lot faster. I see I was pixelating there, the picture. I'm the only one on the internet, so I don't know why that happens. It's maddening. I always watch these later in the evening to see how I blunder, and when I see the pixelating parts, it really upsets me. But I mean, not upsets me, but I really wish that didn't happen, because a lot of times it's in places where it would be really important to see what you're showing or what you're talking about, and the view is all pixelated. So, all right. And, you know, you can see that this is a project that someone with absolutely zero beading experience can do. It is pretty awesome that you can do that. And I've already passed where I started, so I'm going to just put that needle back down. And in this case, you could either choose to cut your thread and tie it off with the beginning thread, the tail, or you can start a new piece of thread. But what I have left on here will easily get me around the second row up. So that would be my next move on this particular cabochon. Was I would put a row of size 15s around above this, and that's what I'm going to do on the next cabochon. So that's the first row. That's your starting project. And that's the back of it. This is the other thing I want to point out. You need to keep your stitches close to where you're working. You may not think that matters at this point, but it will when you go to cut the backing off, because let's see here. Because once you put that third row on here, then you're going to cut off the excess, and you want to make sure that you're not cutting any of those threads. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you want to keep things close together. All right, so I'm going to set this one aside to work on that at a different time. I'm going to put back the rest of my beads. These little aluminum triangles are great to pick up your little seed beads. Make short work of it. And now I'm going to just look up and see if there's anything I need to address, and then we'll go on to the second row. All right. Oh yeah, Patty, you're right. I'm definitely not the only one. I know there's a lot of us that have multi-interests. Deb says, last night I made a Kumihimo bracelet to relax. The breaks from metal smithing are mentally healthy. They are. They are. You're still doing something creative, but it's a relaxing kind of creative. So I like stuff that you can sit back in a recliner and lift your legs and just kind of, just relax and still make something cool. All right. All right. Monica asks, do you need more than one row to ensure the cab is secure? The cab is really secure because you've glued it down. Once you put that E6000 on here, now I put this on not that long ago, and it's on there good. Well, I lied. I could pull it off, but it's not an hour yet since I put it on there. But it would be a struggle to pull it off once it's set. So I guess it's just to your taste. This is the next one that I'm going to do. This one I already put the first row on, and I reinforced that line. So I'm going to start working with the 15-0 beads now, the smaller ones, and just pour a little bit out here. Well, it's way too much, but that's okay. All right. All right. So, and I think, I'm only putting 3 rows on here, but on some of these bezels or cabochons, they're larger and they're kind of high up. So you probably could go with another line if you wanted to. I don't really think that there's any rule with that sort of thing. So as long as it's not too heavy that it can't be supported, but I don't know why it couldn't be on this interfacing. So now I went ahead and I did this first row, but I'm noticing something that I didn't notice when I put this first row on, and that is the fact that I'm using almost clear beads. They're orange, but they're see-through. They're not as opaque as some of the other seed beads. So your thread will show a little bit. So that's where you probably would want white thread as opposed to the dark. But I'm still going to go ahead with this because it's not going to be that noticeable. All right, so my thread is coming up in between 2 beads, and I'm going to start the second row above in the same manner that I just did, where I'm going to put 2 beads on the thread and I'm putting them above that first row. And the first 2 beads kind of want to splay out a little bit, but once I put the needle back in, they'll straighten up. So I'm going through those 2 beads. You want to make sure that you grab both of them, that they're both standing straight up and not laying over. And then I'm going to add 2 more. You have to judge that distance yourself. Once you do a few of them, you'll see if you're a little too far apart or if they're bunched up, then you're too close, because they should lay nicely next to each other. Now there's 4 beads on here, so I'm going to go through the last 3. I try to pick out the seed beads that complement the cabochon. See that thread grabbed it. That complement the cabochon. And I've got, since I've been doing this for a lot of years, I've got a pretty nice assortment of beads, but I don't have every color, so sometimes I have to substitute something that's maybe not the best, but not bad. But I do try to do a good color match. Go back through those last three. And this is where the replay will probably be good, because once you get started on the row, you can turn me off and then you can do your thing and then just pick up on your next step. But it's interesting to watch it all come together. It's kind of fun. When you are not working on the beading foundation, I've done some projects that, like if you're doing Rivoli crystals or an open back kind of crystal, and you're making a bezel and you're using the Delica beads, which are a little more cylindrical. They're a little longer and a little bit different shape than the seed beads are. And you make your bezel a little bit differently because it's not glued on the foundation. And Monica, that is where that would be much more of a concern as far as how many rows you need to keep your cabochon secure. That's a whole another thing, but that's a very valid question and concern, because if you don't have enough rows in that, you could have the stone pop out, but not on this. This won't happen. All right. All right, so I'm gonna, you've got the gist of this, right? I mean, you've moved up, you're just a higher row up. Can you see that okay? I'm still looking fuzzy on my laptop. But that's the start of the second row, all right? And you go around the whole thing just like I did on the first row. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. I'll finish this at another time, probably tonight. And this is the third piece that I've got. I'm going to set these, put these away before I get them all over the place. Oh, get back here. All right. All right, so for the third row, this is going to be your second row of size 11s. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to use, ooh, I don't know what that is, a little piece of paper. I'm going to use another complementing color on this one. That I have the first two rows, and this is a little shot of the back after having two rows on here. And this is probably the most important row as far as not getting your stitches out too far. Okay, so I'm going to come up between two beads. It doesn't really matter. Well, I want to start basically where my thread left off here. So I'm going to come up on the side of two beads, not necessarily through the two beads, but right next to it. And then I'll pick up two. It's the same thing over and over again, folks. Put two down. Come up above, right in front of this. Go through those two. Add two. Go down. and then come up the last, between the last 3 beads and the first one there. And make sure I'm all the way through. Okay. Any other comments or questions, concerns? So that's how the, and this is where buying good seed beads comes into play. Mayuki is my favorite, the Japanese Mayuki beads. They seem to be the most uniform that I have ever used and that I've heard people talk about. I think Toho is probably a close second, or maybe they're even better by now. The Japanese seed beads seem to be among the best. There's a lot of nice Czech seed beads as well, but sometimes the uniformity is not so good. So when you're having beads that nest on each other, just like when we did the Kumihimo beads or bracelets, the uniformity of the bead is super important, because you know, they're just not going to nest well if one's big and one's little. So yeah, Wendy, the 15 row is the top, the very top row is the 15s. They're the ones that are framing the bezel. I have a friend who does wonderful cabochon beading like this. She's on Facebook too, and she does like mural pieces. They're not huge, but they're, you know, they're substantial, and she has them hanging in art galleries and different places. She's very, very good, very talented, and she does a lot of different types of. She incorporates different things in her bezel settings. They're just beautiful. Some of them are fun and funky and kind of quirky, and other ones are just, you know, they're just stunning. So, you know, it's not limited to just this. This is just kind of a basic how you put seed beads around a stone. All right, so then you go around all the way around, you know, finish your row, and then you reinforce. You always reinforce your row, okay? So I'm going to put a couple more on here, and then I'll move on to the other part, the last part that I'm going to do, and go from there. They have little seed beads that have squares. They're square and little dagger type shapes and all kinds of little different things that are very fun and very different, that you can incorporate in your pieces too, if you like that sort of thing. But the idea is to just get them on as uniformly as possible. Sometimes they will kind of pucker a little bit, and you have to try to figure out why that happened. and so that you can avoid it. But I think a lot of it stems from the very first row that you put around. If you have some imperfections in that first row, it kind of seems to carry through. So try to be as accurate as you can. But see now on the back side how this thread is sticking out a lot further. So I don't want to get too close. But actually I do want to finish this because I want to show you how to cut around there. So I will try to get this sped up a little bit if I can. Yeah, I wish I had better camera equipment, but I kind of don't want to spend the big bucks on that stuff. But maybe someday. If I was actually teaching class, maybe I would consider that, but I don't know. We shall see. I hear my husband mowing the lawn. I don't think you can pick that up though. I think that's a little bit farther away. Can you see close up? Well done. I'll try. Is that any better? Yeah, I can see from looking at the laptop, you know, that it's kind of fuzzy. You can't really see what I'm doing. Yeah, maybe you can see that a little bit. I don't know, Dawn. Can you see it a little bit better? Okay. Yeah, it's tough. It really is. You know, that's where I wish I had better equipment. Try to work up a little higher, maybe. Go through those last three. And then add two. Yeah, the very top row are 15s and the other two rows are 11s. And, you know, it could change, I think, depending on the size stone that you're using, too. You might even want to use an 8 on something, you know, a little bit larger seed bead. I think I might have on that bigger pendant. I'd have to look at it again. I swear, if I didn't just do it like a few days ago, I don't always remember exactly what I did. And even that's questionable, so... That's one of the, you know, bad things about getting older. But my husband's doing the same thing, so it's not just me, you know, trying to remember stuff. And I asked him the other day, I said, do you think there's something in this house that's making us lose our memory? Because we're both kind of doing the same things at the same time. But it might just be, you know, well, he just turned 70 and I'm not too far away. But, you know, I think that I should remember things better than I do. You know, but I guess that's just all part of the aging process. I finally went for my this week has been a week of making appointments for things that I've put off for too long. So I had my annual doctor's checkup yesterday and had my blood work today, and I've got a gynecology appointment next month, and mammogram and a colonoscopy all coming up because they're all due. And I've told you before, last year I had a good year as far as losing some weight and walking every day and feeling better. And I don't really feel bad now, other than aches and pains of normal living. But I got my blood tests already, results. I had it drawn this morning, and I already got it on that My Chart. They listed the results, and I've got to make some changes again because I had done really well for the first 9 months of 2020. Regardless of COVID, I was determined I was going to drop like 50 pounds and eat healthier and walk and all that other stuff, because I had been feeling pretty miserable prior to that. So I lost 32 pounds, and then my dad had to go to the hospital in September, and I went through a very stressful period with him, and I started eating again. All the stuff that I had denied myself for 9 months, within reason. I didn't deny myself everything, but I'm pretty much an all or nothing person. And that's, I know it's bad, but I just can't seem to find the right balance. And so little by little, I started eating everything back that I had avoided for 9 months, and here we are again at, back to where I was before I started last year, which is very depressing. But it's my own fault because I knew what I was doing. But, food is a comfort thing for me, and I happen to like all the things that are bad for you. So now I've got to get back on the wagon, and I am dreading it because, honest to God, I would rather take a beating than exercise. I know that's sad, but that's how I am. But it'll have to be baby steps again. That's how I started last time, and I'll have to do it again. So it's back to that business again. I'm sure there's some of you out there that can relate to that. Some of you don't have to worry about that stuff. You're just naturally thin. But that has never been one of my good points. But I am fun. So, to some degree anyway. All right, we're almost there. I'm probably losing you guys because this is boring, this part. All right. Go back 3, almost done with this row. Oh, you started physical therapy? Ugh. Good for you, Dawn. If you need it, Yeah, and chocolate. Oh my God, chocolate. Yes. I've been buying, I deserve to have bad labs because I've been buying the large block of Hershey's dark chocolate. I love that so much, and I've been blowing through those. I like to have a little bit of it every night after dinner. It's not dinner unless I have a piece of chocolate afterwards. So I just have to stop buying the stuff, because if it's in the house, it will get eaten. And my husband doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff. He can eat all kinds of stuff. It's just so totally unfair. All right, so I've got all those on. I'm just going to go around the perimeter fast with this. I guess I'm not going to go fast. But it's important to get this done for the next step that I want to show you. This particular row that I'm putting on are, I believe they have to be check beads, because they're a little bit different. What did I do here? I caught a thread. Oh crap. See, I'm talking about chocolate and I go crazy. There we go. That was easy. Okay. You know, I wish I could say like I was a salad person, or, you know, really big on super healthy foods, but I'm not. I like salad a lot, but I also like dressing a lot. So, you know, that kind of cancels the health benefits out of the salad to some degree, when you pour all kinds of stuff all over it. All right. Close, but no cigar. Yeah, it's definitely not fair. And the other thing too, I mean, my husband can eat all kinds of sweets and not have any problem with that. But there are certain things that trigger, that make him very ill, and it always seems to be something different. And he's been tested extensively, and nobody can really find out what is going on with him. But he's okay. But there are certain foods that he will not eat, and that makes it hard to cook sometimes. And you know, it's kind of a pain in the butt. It's like, I want us to all eat the same things, but it doesn't always happen. All right, so I'm back where I started now, and I'm going to push that thread through, and then I'm going to tie off. Take my needle out, put these away. Okay, and then I'm going to tie off in a knot on the back here. Okay, so that's secure. I'm going to cut off my threads. And now, so I've got my 3 rows on here. So now I'm going to cut this extra off here. And I'm going to take my scissors and go right up against these beads. And that's why I said it's important not to cut into those stitches that are on the back. So if you've not overextended your stitches, you should be safe to cut right along the edge of that outer row. And that was my knot thread, so that's okay. So, I mean, it just makes it. It just makes it. So then I'm going to take my suede. I spilled something on there, I see. I'm going to take my suede and I'm going to get my E6000 again. And squeeze some on. And I'm going to go over the stitches. I want to make sure I cover over there, because even though I didn't cut into any, in case I did, I would hope that that would help it somewhat to keep them from fraying, but can't be positive. But I want to make sure that I give it enough that it's all covered. Okay? All right, so then I'm going to find an area here and push that down. Close up my glue because this stuff will run out. And I'm just going to give this a trim here. I probably should wait, but I'm not. I'm just going to cut around here. But before you do anything else, you should let this dry for about an hour. Okay? So that way you have your suede on the back. All right? Now, if you have this white area that bothers you, you can take a marker and cover this white up carefully. But I don't find it to be too much of an issue. On some of these, you can't really see it at all. Once you, well, you can see it. If you're really looking for it, you can find it in here. You can see the white a little bit. But honestly, that's not anything I would worry about. But if you wanted to, you could, like I said, take a marker and cover over that. And yeah, now that I'm looking at this one that I have in my hand, this was a larger stone, so I did 4 rows on this one. And looks like 8s on the outside instead of 11s. And these have 4mm beads, as opposed to these that have 3mm beads. So there's some things to vary on there that you can vary. All right, so that's good for right now. That's done. And now this one, let's see how I can get this done. I am going to need my crystals. It takes about 24, 26 crystals for, well, this one might take a little bit more because this is a little bit larger than 20mm, but you know, just to say in the ballpark range, anywhere between 24 and maybe 28 crystals, depending if you're using 3s or 4s on there. And now I'm going to need another length of thread, another arm span or wingspan. Okay. And I'm going to need some other seed beads. I'm just going to need some 11s. And I think what I want to do is put corresponding ones to the inner row. Or maybe that's too close of a match. I don't know. We'll just go with that. So I'll put a few of those out. It's way too many again. All right. And we'll start with this. And on this row, we start from the top with the needle, as opposed to instead of coming from the back side, we're going to start off going from the front side. So I'm just going to pick, I guess it doesn't matter where, in between 2 8s. And sometimes, not on this, but sometimes as you get layers of threads in your seed bead holes, it gets hard to pass the needle through. So have a pair of chain nose or flat nose pliers around, so that'll help you pull that needle through. Because if you're pushing and pushing and pushing on that needle, more than likely you're going to break it. So try to keep that in mind. Have a pair of pliers around. So I'm going to leave myself a little tail here. And, well, the very first thing I did was forget to put the bead on. So I'm going to take one of these beads and go back through there. All right, so I've got my tail, and so my thread's coming out from the back, and I want to, it's just a little hard to hold this in the very beginning, but afterwards, after you get going, it's not bad. So I'm going to take this thread that I just came through the back, and I'm going to go through, fat fingers are in the way, so I'm going to go through the seed bead, the size 11 that I just put on. Come here. Okay, so I'm going through there. I'm holding on to the tail so that doesn't come off. So essentially, this is how it looks right now. All right, so this row is going to rest on top of the ends of that ultra suede and beads. All right, so I've got this one started, and I'm going to take a crystal and one size 11, and I'm going to go 3 beads over and insert my needle through. It's a little stiffer because you're going through a couple layers. Okay, so this starts these little segments. So it's going to be a seed bead, a 4mm crystal, and another seed bead. Then I'm going to add a bicone, a 3mm bicone, and another seed bead, and move 3 beads over and go through again. This is your fringe all the way around. And I have my thread caught. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Sorry, brain fart. Take this off. It's a given that this is going to happen. It's just a given. All right. So what I needed to do that I failed to do was go back through that 11. Oh. Steady hands, I don't have too much anymore. All right, so I need to go back through this 11. I've got that little segment on, and now I go back through this 11. And now I can add the 3mm and the seed bead, go over 3 beads, And you do have to do a little nudging, a little straightening in the beginning. Okay, come back up through this seed bead. And add a bicone and an 11 and count over 3 beads and go through front to back. And then now your thread is on the back, and you're going to come back up through this last 11-0. And you see how nicely that sits? And you're going to just do that all the way around. Oop. I'm just flinging them all over here. Okay, 3 beads over, and front to back. Back through the 11. And the bicone and the 11 again. Count over 3 beads. Put your needle through. I find this stuff extremely relaxing. Back up through the 11. Can you see this all right, guys? So you're going to have little tiny stitches around here. You can't avoid that, but that's okay. You know, that's not bad. It's not a bad look. Bicone always goes on first, and then the seed bead, and over 3 beads, and back through. Back through the 11. Kind of pull on that. Keep the tension nice. Can you see that okay, Cindy? Move over 3, going through 3. Monica, you're funny. Probably falling asleep watching. That's the downside too, is watching these things. You kind of get sleepy sometimes. When nobody's pounding, hitting metal and stuff. That just jumped out of my hand. Okay. So I'm moving over 3. It's the same repetition all the way around. All right, so I think I'm going to leave it at this, because this would all be, you know, going around. And what I'll do is I'll finish it up, and then later I'll post it on the group site. you can see the finished product, although you've seen some of the other ones that I've done, so that kind of gives you the idea. But you can decide, how you want to use this. If you want to make it as a pendant, then you would have to attach a bail. If you wanted to use it as a focal point on a bracelet, on a leather band, you could do that. That would be really, really pretty. You could do that. They also sell, which I don't have right in front of me, but they also sell glue-on bails for, I'm not a huge fan of those, but they are a choice if you wanted to use them. They're sturdy. I mean, a lot of people use them for fused glass that aren't going to have any kind of bezel on there around there. So you can glue them on with the E6000 and then you're good to go. But if you are interested in doing this with the bail, I'll put the website, the YouTube site on there that you can check out this lady's videos, and she has so many great ideas that you might want to do some of her other projects as well. I mean, it's a free, they're free tutorials. They're great. I haven't seen too many of hers, but I have seen some, and I like the way she works. She is, I can't exactly well, let me see. I probably have it on the instructions. It's Bronze Pony something or other. Bronze Pony Beaded Jewelry on YouTube, but that'll be in the handouts. And then there's a herringbone stitch bail, on another YouTube site that you can watch. You can watch those, how she does those things too, and you can learn a lot. You can definitely learn a lot. So, Deb, you're so funny. I'd have to go jump off a cliff if I started menstruating again. No thanks. Been there, done that. Oh, Sunny. Let me see here. Who had fajitas and margaritas? Wonderful, Nancy. That sounds good. Now I'm gonna have all this guilt heaped up on my head because of my labs. I'm gonna have to get back on the wagon. I'm not ready. I like my food. Have you ever sewn one to something you're wearing? I haven't. Like if I was stitched it right in here. I haven't done that one yet, Deb, but there's always another day. It could happen. Oh, a shrimp burrito. That sounds wonderful. Yeah, my friend Linda has a birthday today, and it's like, how fun is that? Have your birthday on Cinco de Mayo. Lana, the bicones that I'm using in this project today are 3mm, but this project that I did a while back, this has got 4s, and this has got 3s. The 3s are pretty tiny, but they sure have a lot of sparkle. So they have sparkle just the same. Yeah, it is mesmerizing for sure. It's fun, it's fun. And, the fact that I had a shop, and I had a lot of different teachers come in and teach different techniques. And I was able to learn a lot from them as well, by, sitting in on a lot of this stuff. And I don't think we did this particular kind of thing, but we did some other ones, a lot of needle and thread projects. And, it was nice. It was a very wonderful opportunity. to have. And I kind of miss it. I kind of don't miss it. But having the freedom to be in my studio in my pajamas, not that I do that, but I could do it if I wanted to, or to, come in here, turn on the pickle pot, and then, go back and do something else for a couple hours and then come back. I mean, it's nice to be able to be home and be able to do these things. So anyway, in the years, I've learned a lot of different techniques, and I'm happy to share them with you. Next week, I'm going to do lab slide pendants. I had made a few for a friend who asked me to do some for a memorial for their dog who recently crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and she wanted to have a little keepsake with some of his fur and his photo. So I hadn't done those in a long time, and I had to make several for her, and it kind of brought back the fun that I had doing them. And I did those for quite a few years, quite a few classes. So they were actually, I would say, the bread and butter of my ability to keep the shop going for a while. They paid the rent many times. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. I did this class up at Beaded Button for several years, and I called it Photo Pendants Under Glass. But they're just little pieces of glass with artwork. And here's a little smattering. Put these off to the side. This is what they are. There's different sizes. Excuse me. These are how they originally started, I guess, with regular lab slides, that people in the medical profession would use. And somebody decided to stick something under there and make it a wearable piece of art. So so I started making these and had big fun doing it. You can, the ones that I made last week, I think I showed you on the website for the dog. And you can make them memorial pieces in the respect of, you can put their picture on it, and on the reverse side you can put their a date or some kind of something, a little message or some little blurb of something. So they're kind of versatile that way. I've done these as, well, mostly this size, as little anniversary gifts for people. I've made them where they've had their original wedding photo on the front and then their current photo on the other side. So there are, lots of different possibilities. You could even collage with them a little bit. You can stick different little things under there, layer them. You can do little pinup girls or whatever, Then, and you can also solder things on to the bottom, or different little balls and blobs and stuff like that. You can do those things too. So anyway, so I think I'm going to revisit this next week for anybody that's interested. I did have a few people that it sparked interest in, so I think I'll go ahead and I'll do that. The only thing, the downside, is that these pieces of glass used to be called memory glass that you would buy in a box at the craft stores, and they no longer make memory glass. It was available in 4 different sizes. It had the long lab slides, the little 1-inch squares, 1.5-inch squares, and 2-inch squares. And you can't find those in craft stores, and I have extensively searched on Google to find them. You can find the memory glass in certain sizes, but it's frosted glass. If you don't want frosted glass, because that's going to hide your image or whatever you're putting behind that. However, I did run across a couple of sites on Etsy that cut the glass in the sizes, and you can buy from them, and they didn't seem unreasonable at all as far as their pricing goes. Because cutting little squares of glass like this can be tedious if you're not, if you don't enjoy it. I've tried it and I didn't really enjoy it. I thought, oh, buying them already cuts a lot easier. So that's what I've done before, is buy those. But I'll give you the resources of where you can still find them available, and they're big fun. They really are. Like I said, I paid for my studio rent many times by selling these. They always seem to sell very quickly at shows because the price point's low, and everybody likes a little, kind of funky little thing, and I would take custom orders too and do bands and different things, that people wanted that they couldn't have made any other way. So I think it'll be fun to revisit this a little bit, and you can take it for whatever it's worth. So I hope that today's project, that you got something out of it, that you enjoyed it. If you want to do a kit, I will put a limited amount together, maybe 10 or 12, depending on how much supplies I have on things. But what I said earlier was I will make maybe just a couple different color combos available, and then I'll put them out on the group page, and you can pick, if you're interested, you can pick which one you want, and then I will choose your corresponding colors, for the piece. I think I have a decent eye for color, so I will try to make them as pretty as possible. So I will get back to you guys later in the week with the picture. And in the meantime, if you're interested, just let me know that you're interested, and we'll go from there, guys. So get back up here and look at you guys. Well, no, you're looking at me. You're looking at my mug. Okay, so I guess I have nothing else to say unless you have any other questions, but I think we're done. You're very welcome. I'm happy to do this, and I just have to keep coming up with ideas. So I will try to get a couple of these finished and post them tonight, of the ones that we worked on. I'm especially interested in seeing this green and orange one. I don't usually do these kind of colors, but my eye is like really attracted to this, so I'd like to see this completed. All right, you guys, I will see you next week, and have a good weekend, the rest of the week, and we'll see you on the group page. Take care. Bye-bye.